And if I'm being totally honest, the consulting side that I started with was what I tell people to start with. Start with what you know and start with what you know you can execute and execute well. Running a digital media business is something I haven't done before, right? And so it's new in that I'm going to have to figure out the monetization strategy for it. How am I going to make money doing this? Hi there, it's Sewa, and welcome to another episode of the She's Off Script podcast. For today's episode, we're having an off script update episode, which if you're new around here means it's a solo episode. We don't have any guests, and I'm giving you an update on my business building journey, as well as just sharing generally how I'm doing from a personal perspective. Now, especially if you're new around here, you may not realize that when I released my first episode in August of 2018, my goal was to share my personal journey into entrepreneurship because for many people, they just didn't understand why I was leaving a six-figure executive position on Wall Street to start my own business. So this was my way of documenting that journey. But along the way, I found that there were so many other women who were doing what I was trying to do and were doing it very successfully. So it turned into me sharing their journeys, and we are all learning from their experiences and their successes as well. So for today's episode, stay until the end because I do have a pretty big personal update to share with you all. So let's start from the top. How are things going with me from a business perspective? So if you're not aware, I'm a digital business strategist, which means I help businesses figure out what their online business footprint should look like and how they can create and generate revenue from that online footprint. So I've been doing that for the past 2.5 years, and I have to say I've learned a lot from that journey. I started out doing one-on-one coaching, then small projects, then took on retainer clients. And now I'm at the point where I'm going to be able to take all the experiences I've had, everything I've liked and not liked as much out of everything I've done, and turn it into something that represents more of where I want my business to go. So more to come on that. But right alongside my consulting business, I also have this podcast platform. Now, it started as like a side hustle to me starting a business, but over time, it's gotten bigger than me. And I feel like there's a responsibility to grow that platform as well. So over the past 6 months, I've really put a lot of thought into how I can make that happen and how I can make sure that the people I bring on the show are getting highlighted, as well as you all who are listening to the show can get as many resources from me as possible. So that's turned into, on the podcast side, last November during Black Friday, I had a Black Friday deal to help us launch our membership community, which is called Boss Off Script, because I was finding that everyone who was listening to the show needed a little bit more coaching, needed a community, and I did not have the capacity to give one-on-one coaching. So I figured, why not bring everyone together into one group, and I could provide resources and information and live coaching as well. That's been going on for the last 6 months. And I have to say, I've learned a lot about having a membership community from the founders who are in there. We have a mix of people who already are running businesses and people who are trying to launch businesses. And here, probably my top 3 takeaways from having that membership community. I would say the first thing is we are all busy, and I'm finding that the ladies in there need to time box their time within the membership community. By that, I mean, they want to know, how long am I going to have to dedicate time to this? Is this a year-long thing? And in that case, I probably will not be able to show up strong every single week. Or is this a 6-month commitment? So that was one thing, was we needed to time box our resources and our experience within the membership community. And then the other thing I found was that because we had women at different points in their journey, they needed more of a roadmap for their specific part of the journey. So for the people who were coming in with an idea or no idea, but just really wanted to be around other entrepreneurial women, they needed a little bit more hand holding when it came to figuring out how they could go from idea to actually launching a business. Whereas people who've already started a business have more specific questions about how do I get clients, or how do I retain the clients I have? How do I market? Things of that nature. So I started to think about, okay, how can we better serve the community? How can we make sure that the people who come into the membership community are going to get most out of the experience? So over the last 6 months, that's led us to launch the Side Business Lab, which is a program that's specifically tailored to the majority of the audience that we have for the podcast, which means that I've had to put the Boss Off Script membership community on hold. So we'll explain more of what that means. So the Side Business Lab was my way of helping those of you listening that are currently working a 9-to-5 and that are listening to the show because you would love to launch a business and you're just getting ideas and you're getting information and doing your research before you take the plunge. So we have launched the first cohort of the Side Business Lab. And as this episode is being released, we're currently in week 5 of an 8-week program where the founders in there work a 9-to-5 and we're helping them go from idea or not really knowing which idea to pick to their first client. So your goal in that 8 weeks in the program is to emerge with your first client, as well as the know-how of how to get your next client and so on and so forth. So as you can see, I've addressed some of the issues that we saw coming out of our Boss Off Script membership community and put them right into a program that I see is already so helpful to the women who've joined that program. So I'm so excited to see the successes that come out of the first cohort, and then we'll relaunch it and expand the people and expand the number of people that we have inside of our Side Business Lab. So if you're interested in getting on the wait list for Side Business Lab, you can go to sewa.adjei-pelle.com/Side Business Lab, and you can get on the wait list for that. So as you can see, you have to be willing to pivot and you have to be flexible. If you try something, especially if you stick with it for 6 months and you find that you're not getting the results, or the people that you're trying to serve are not really seeing the results or not really able to consume the resource in the way you envisioned it, you have to be willing to pivot, right? And that's what we've done. And so far with Side Business Lab, I'm finding that it's really serving the community in the way they need help right now in their journey. So that's kind of where we are from a business perspective, in that I have thought about how can I really make sure that I'm serving my community in the best way I can. But I will say that as starting out as a solopreneur, it's been very important for me to make sure that I'm not stretching myself too thin. And right out of the gate, I think I did something I always encourage people to steer away from. I always tell people to start with one thing and focus on executing perfectly with that one thing. While here I was with a consulting business and also this emerging digital media platform, which is the She's Off Script platform. So this is kind of a big business update from my perspective, is I've had to find a way to merge the two in a way that really stays true to what I want to do from a business perspective, and in a way that is going to continue to serve my audience. So that has ended up with me deciding to make the She's Off Script brand be the forefront of my business. And that also means that the clients I'm serving are changing, in that I'm working more with corporate clients right now and helping them with their digital marketing strategies as it pertains to you guys, this audience. And I'm really excited about that. And over the past 6 months or so, that's what I've been focused on, is trying to figure out how to get in front of those clients. And it's very exciting because the work is starting to pay off. And I'm really excited to share with you guys what that's going to look like. As soon as the ink dries on some of the conversations that we're having, you all will start to see what the next iteration of my business and of She's Off Script looks like. To give you a preview of that, if you've been watching this YouTube channel, the name of it has changed, right? The YouTube channel where we are now showing the video format of this podcast is now the She's Off Script channel. And I also am going to start to expand the kind of content I have on there. For example, right now it's very business centric. So with the podcast, it's very focused on all things business, but I want to also start to cater to the things that the off script woman is looking for a blueprint for success around. So whether you're looking for a blueprint for success around the way you raise your kids, or a blueprint for success around the way that you build relationships or career, or the tools that you use in order to become more efficient in what you do around the house, whatever the case may be, we're going to be expanding into more of a lifestyle brand. But of course, that doesn't happen overnight. And that's also going to require that I have more help to make that happen. So you'll probably notice that I'm going more from a video first perspective. And I think video has been very important for the growth online for a long time. It's just knowing it and actually executing on that are two separate things. So the rollout of video on the She's Off Script platform started with us starting to share video podcasts. So now we're going to have more video content emerging as well. At the beginning of the year, I brought on a podcast management team that's helping me more with the audio version of things, or with the audio side of things. I'm going to need more help on the content side of things as we roll out the different content strands that I mentioned. So that's going to be quite a big undertaking, but that is the direction that I would like to take this in. And if I'm being totally honest, the consulting side that I started with was what I tell people to start with. Start with what you know, and start with what you know you can execute, and execute well. Running a digital media business is something I haven't done before, right? And so it's new in that I'm going to have to figure out the monetization strategy for it. How am I going to make money doing this, right? Consulting, I understood. You find a client, you create a strategy for them, you help them execute the strategy, they see results, you get paid, right? From a digital strategy or digital media perspective, there are so many ways to monetize a digital media platform, and I'm still figuring out how to roll that out. So from an information perspective, we do have our side business lab, which is a program that people can purchase from us. And it's a higher ticket item in that people are paying more than $1,000 to join the side business lab. Other than that, traditionally for the podcast or other media platforms, people sell advertising. I need to figure out, is that something that I want to do on this platform? Brand partnerships and business partnerships are also in the cards for us. So keep an eye out for that. But you have to make sure that the way in which you monetize your platform is in integrity with who you are as a person and is going to continue to serve your audience. So that's the update from a business perspective. Stay tuned on that because I'm excited about where we're taking this. Now for the life update I mentioned. Are you ready? We're moving to Seattle. This really came out of nowhere. I feel like my husband and I had talked about how it would be like, or what it would be like to live somewhere else. We talked about the possibility, but one day he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about taking this new role in Seattle. What do you think?" And I was definitely open to it, especially given that I work remotely. I can work from anywhere. So we definitely had to map out the pros and cons, and here we are. It's a big move for us because we've lived in the Dallas area for more than 10 years at this point. And we have a great group of friends here. We've had kids together. I literally was down the hall from one of my best friends as we had our kids. So it's a big move to uproot your family and go somewhere new. So there was a lot to consider with it. But if you're interested in following that journey, I have created a new YouTube channel. And by the time this episode is released, you'll be able to watch the vlog of my husband and I house hunting in Seattle. And I will share a lot of the different facets of what it's taking for us to move from somewhere that we've lived for over 10 years to somewhere entirely new across the country, where fortunately we do know a few people. Some of the people who were in my MBA program, if you don't know, I did my MBA at Cornell, and a lot of the people that I did my MBA with live in the Seattle, Vancouver area. So I'm fortunate that I do have a network out there. And in fact, some of the people that I've had on the show also live in that area as well. So we're not necessarily starting from ground zero when it comes to a community. But as I said, if you're interested in more of the details of what it's going to take for me to make the move, then you can follow that journey on my vlog channel. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be down in the description box. And if you are listening to the audio version of this, you can find my YouTube channel, my new YouTube channel, in the show notes. So why have I decided to launch a whole entire new YouTube channel? Well, I have to say, for the past 2.5 years, a lot of the content I've been producing has been business related. And I think it's made it a little bit difficult to have a creative outlet, which I am. And I've done that a little bit through my personal Instagram. And thank you to those of you who reached out to me asking, where have you been? Really, this is where I've been. There have just been a lot of things going on from a business and personal perspective, and you just have to set your priorities and make sure that you're getting the biggest bang for your time when it comes to the kind of content you're putting online. So for this content that I'm creating for the vlog channel, this is going to be a great creative outlet for me. And as we have people joining the community who may not have gone all the way to the beginning of this podcast to listen to my story, this is going to be a good way for you all to get to know me from a different perspective. Now, the other reason I'm deciding to focus more on YouTube than on Instagram is the fact that I have to consider the ROI, the return on my investment. And right now, there just seems to be a greater return for being on YouTube than for being on Instagram. I read a great blog post by adjei-pelle. That's her name on Instagram. You can look her up, and I will share the article in the description box if you're watching on YouTube, or in the show notes if you're listening to the episode. But she had a great article or blog post about how Instagram has changed over the past few years with all the different features that Instagram is releasing, as well as the different things that they are focused on as far as what the algorithm is promoting. And right now, the algorithm is prioritizing Reels. And you just need to be very strategic about how you're using that sort of video. And for me, I want to make sure that the video content I'm creating is starting and is natively based in an SEO-friendly platform. What that means is when you're on YouTube, people can search for your content and new people can discover you, and then they can take further action. So for me, I want to focus more on that kind of content that can help me grow my platform, and then use Reels more as a way to get people back to YouTube. So you'll see a little bit more of that strategy unfolding over the next few months, but I really want to use Instagram as a way to advertise the things that I'm doing on other platforms. So as we roll out more content on she'soffscript.com, you will see more content on Instagram driving you back to that platform as well. So more to come on that, but given that it's just me and the podcast management side and a few contractors right now, I want to make sure that I'm making the best use of the help that I have and using platforms that are just going to give me more return on my limited time investment. So I think adjei-pelle's blog post is a great one for you to listen to, because it might give you some perspective on the way the different platforms we're using are behaving and whether or not it still makes sense for you to invest as much time on those platforms, because things are forever changing based on our behaviors and the way that we consume that information. So that's a good read for you if you haven't necessarily thought about what your online footprint needs to look like from a business perspective. Okay, so that's the off-script update I had for you all today. We're in June. It's the midpoint of the year, and I think that's always a great time to stop and reflect on what you've accomplished in the year so far, whether or not you're hitting the goals that you set out for yourself. And at this point in time, I'm feeling good about where I am as far as what goals and targets I set for myself. Now, for the rest of the year, it's going to be time for me. First of all, I need to reset after we make this major move. And then in the fall, we're back to executing based on what we had planned for the year. And I'm really excited about how that is going, because these are plans that have been in motion, some of them for more than a year. But as I said, if you want to keep up with how things are going with me personally, check the link below for information on my new YouTube channel, the vlog channel. If you enjoyed this episode, just know I have 130 other audio episodes you can binge listen to on she'soffscript.com or wherever podcasts are available. I release this podcast in both audio and video format every single Thursday, so we'll see you right back here for another episode next week. Bye.